been an interesting reception here in Canberra. Joining the panel now, Independent MP Sophie who's been here all along. She's probably worried she's going to get a hot take, but couldn't possibly do that. What have you made of, I guess, the government talking about their active role? Someone in Birmingham said, don't equate Julian Assange with the other people that have been free that Kieran mentioned. What did you made of that sort of debate, I suppose?
Look, it's been incredibly interesting because there's been such solidarity across the parliament, and we saw that motion go through. All sides of parliament supported that, so it was quite incredible. And then when we have those press conferences, the parliamentary friends of Julian Assange, I'll be standing there shoulder to shoulder with people like Matt Canavan and Barnaby Joyce. So there's a really broad support for bringing him home for many different reasons. I think many people thought it was just time. He's an Australian. He deserves to come home. His mental health was really suffering. There's others who feel like the freedom of speech, press freedoms are incredibly important. And also just that truth. People deserve to know the truth of things. So there's many reasons why I'd say a lot of people in the parliament are really happy that he's finally home. What's your view on his legacy? Because you mentioned the different sides. What do you think when you think Julian Assange? Look, it is really conflicted. It is difficult. But one of the things I do think it was in the public interest to know about what was happening in Iraq and the war crimes that were happening there. I think that people do deserve to know what is happening in their names. So, look, it is very controversial, and we'll see what happens in the future as well. But I mean, that was something that I think people needed to know about, those war crimes. OK. I wanted to ask you just about, before I hand over to the panel, environmental laws, because the other Teal MPs are saying you're not happy with the changes made by Labor. What's an example? I know you've pulled out offsetting, so projects are meant to offset the damage they do. What's an example of what's not happening that you think should be a project, for example, that's happened out there? Look, I'll talk about what I'm specifically have been negotiating with the government about at the moment. And one of them is that the new body, the Environment Protection Authority Australia, I just feel it's not strong enough. Like, Australians need to be able to trust these bodies. So what I've been banging on about ending jobs for mates for ages now. But one thing we want to know is that this board needs to be independent of any government now and into the future. So we need to be able to trust these really important institutions, that they are acting in the best interests of Australians. And that's what we need to be able to trust. So what I've been carrying on about is an independent selection process. So we have a really strong board in this enforcement agency that we know we can trust, that their decisions are actually, in our best interests.
You're a couple of years in now, and there's every likelihood of a hung parliament at the next election. You'd obviously still have to win your seat, which is marginal. Yes. Have you turned your mind much to that? Is that a prospect you would look forward to, because it would obviously give you more power?
Look, a very interesting question. I think day to day I'm just focused currently on these environment laws. This is a huge piece of legislation that I think the country has been waiting for a long amount of time. As to what will happen in the future, I think the independents have shown that far from being, chaotic, it has been a constructive force and a really important role as well as the opposition in holding the government to account on things that they've promised to do, and also just sort of weeding out, we need things that the public needs to know about and bringing that to the fore as well. So I do think there's a really important role for more voices in Parliament and more ideas coming to Parliament and more debate, more constructive debate as well.
On that, with the potential of a hung parliament, has there been any sort of outreach from the coalition? Are they working to kind of future-proof that potential with you?
Look, there's been a little bit of outreach. Look, I should say is that it seems to me that's worked quite well over the last 2 years, because both sides, both the opposition and the coalition, will be briefing us on their position on things. So the ministers, for example, will brief us on legislation that's coming in, so we can ask questions and we can go away and consider it. But also the coalition is also briefing us on their positions on things and, trying to garner that support. So it does work quite well because, of course, as an independent, you may agree with either side on different things. So it is good to know what's going on and what either side is thinking.
Sorry, Judy.
This is the complicated thing of this. Do we have to go to the next election saying, if there's a hung parliament, I will vote with Labor, I will vote with the coalition? Are you going to declare that up front, or will you wait and see?
Look, I think what I did last time, which I think is really important, is I will be upfront about what I support, because that comes directly from the community. So people are going to know what policies I stand for. So really it's up to what either side is bringing to the election. So I'll wait and see.
And the environment's often the number one issue in that electorate from memory. in the Northern Beaches, isn't it?
It is a huge issue in the Northern Beaches, but having said that, I now think that, well, I know that cost of living is majorly important, and also housing. Housing is significant. You know, we have so many people who are having to move out of the area because they simply can't afford to live there, and services closing down, like a drug and alcohol rehabilitation service and a dental service, because they can't get those essential workers that we need to work there.
It's interesting you say that, because when you think of the Northern Beaches, you think Palm Beach, Avalon, you know, Whale Beach, these places that are you wouldn't associate with cost of living pressures.
No, and that's the interesting thing. I do actually think that my electorate's slightly different from some of the others in that, yes, we do. There is Whale Beach and Palm Beach and all of that, but we also have Narrowena and Cromer and DY, where people are really having to think about their cost of living, and so that is the number one issue, and I think quite clearly the number one issue.
Is that like a mortgage belt? Part of it.
Yeah.
Plenty of flats there too, right?
Yeah, a lot of flats. Yep, definitely. Yeah, so there is that balance, and there is also diversity, ethnic diversity in the electorate as well that people aren't always aware of.
All right, an insight into your strategy, perhaps. We'll talk again in the lead up to the election and see what we can get out of you in terms of what side you might support. Appreciate your time. Thank you.